Hi, this is another part of the EPS 415 blog or vlog for the Red Velvets, and this is to talk about the learning experiences part of the Magic Bus, and in my case the Magic Bus University program. In this particular program, the learning experiences that would be available to students on their own time, at least during the time that the Magic Bus was available at the Education USA Center. When the bus left for the next center, at least one station would be installed at the Education USA Center to allow students to continue their journey toward successfully studying in the U.S. so they could still go in and continue this journey, continue playing the game. The learning goals that international students would have, or that are usual for these pre-departure orientations, for on-campus orientation to the institution, and for first-year experience programs, address certain common needs, such as student recruitment, retention, completion, and ultimately student success. The educational programs designed to address these needs could be improved by the implementation of them using VR platforms, and this could be provided through this platform, or the content could be provided using the Magic Bus idea for these prospective international students. Would be a way of decentralizing this training. As discussed by Dunleavy and Deed, this particular program would be based on the learning theories that support VR approaches, and they spoke of two of these. One of these was situated learning experiences and constructivist learning theories. The VR experience would provide a situational learning experience of the various environments involved in accomplishing the challenges involved in, for example, getting an F1 visa, and also in successfully living and studying in the United States. It allows the prospective student to get a taste of the experience and also of the required challenges that the student will have to go through, and the various tasks of the level. And this will allow them the opportunity to practice the skill or have a dry run. This might be appropriate for preparing for a visa interview with the U.S. Consulate. The student's success at meeting the challenges will be largely based on realistic criteria, or the common kinds of stumbling blocks that are known problems that arise in these processes. As they find out why they did not progress through the challenge and try again, the learning becomes more constructivist. In the visa interview example, they may watch a tape or two and try to identify what went wrong. For a particular person going through a visa interview, what they might have said that didn't get them the visa. They will be mostly responsible for figuring out the issue or the need for backtracking, whether it was a lack of preparation or whatever did not contribute to their success at the challenge. So the learning that they will do will actually be making their own conclusions on what they were doing wrong and trying to fix it. And that will help them work their way through the challenges. The learning experiences could be considered both place-dependent and place-independent, in that there would be material specific to particular U.S. colleges, which would be very situational and very place-dependent. In a sense, even the educational content that addresses student needs, such as information about the visa process, checking in at the university, getting classes, the U.S. Classroom expectations, life in the U.S., etc., will be offered in an appropriate situation, but a generic setting. This would include, for example, a U.S. consular office or a U.S. classroom or other such places that they will encounter in the challenges in this journey. So the learning experience will still be somewhat place-dependent and situational, but we'll try to make it generic and not specific to any particular situation or place, so that the student can generalize that to many different universities and colleges in the United States. In fact, to remove any tie to a specific place and help facilitate the adoption of these realities by the participant, these places could actually be generated in animation. For example, the visa office or the consular office. And that would be as long as they would appear authentic and the interaction with the people in the space would seem authentic and not cartoony, because you don't want a cartoony consular officer. Well, maybe you do, but you don't usually get them. So not surprisingly, marketing arms of U.S. colleges and universities have been early adopters of this technology in this context. And there are several companies that advertise their services in helping the U.S. campuses create VR tours for use in marketing on the web. And one of the companies is called CampusTours.com, and they offer to come in and help a campus build this virtual tour capacity. With their help or without it, U.S. campuses are getting more sophisticated in providing this virtual experience to show off their assets of their campus to prospective students. The University of Northern Arizona has a very popular VR presence that has been visited by more than 30,000 people in the first 2 years of operation. It's according to a report in the Chronicle of Higher Education. For the university, this has proven very effective in engaging student interest and repeat visits to their website, and also in having follow-up visits to the campus. And so this has also translated into enrollment, so this has been very successful. And they reported that the cost of this venture was approximately $13,000 for the development and also to YouTube to maintain it, which compares quite favorably to the cost of the tuition for one freshman, which is $24,000. And this can be seen on YouTube. So you can look this up, and I'll give you the URL. I think it takes a lot more time than that. I'm guessing there's a lot of hidden costs in this at $13,000. But using a VR game as a teaching method to engage students with the content related to pre-departure, on-campus, and first-year experience orientation seems to be a great method. It allows students to engage in a very personal way with the material, in a very specific way that relates to their situation. It offers the potential of a more exciting and engaging method that would foster student participation. It also allows for trial and error without drastic consequences. If you mess up in this visa interview, you aren't getting denied your visa. And ultimately, the goals are to facilitate student recruitment, retention, completion, and success. So this way, everybody's happy. The universities, the USA, the Education USA offices, and the student. This idea was so compelling that the University of Chicago developed an orientation VR simulation game called the Parasite. This was also featured in the Chronicle of Higher Education in November of 2017. There's a sign-in for students, and it is protected, so you must be admitted to engage in the game. There's a discussion about the game, and I've read quite a bit about it, and there's quite a few scenarios, I think, that may not apply to the needs of international students, but it is a very clever concept and quite well done from what I can tell. As I looked at the premise, I thought for international students it would be a bit too dark and malevolent. I don't think this is necessary to keep international students interested. It does add to the suspense of the game, maybe the mystery, but I just think it's a little too dark. It's got some monks dressed in red in an alternate dimension, and it gets a little too sort of Harry Potterish or gothic to me. So I think this scary or conspiracy-oriented ideas may be perceived negatively by international students. Some of the important lessons that the University of Chicago learned from this experience were that this project really required a campus-wide commitment. Initially, it was a significant commitment of time and energy for so many individuals across the institution. In fact, they were surprised at how many people got involved, were interested, but also how much time it took. It's a very creative approach to providing students with information that they need in order to be successful. But again, I think this kind of Gothic genre is a little over the top for international students, although it's a very cool program. So the theme may not have universal appeal, but the way that the institution went about implementing this particular VR experience for their campus is a very interesting model to study for institutions looking towards some similar type of a program. Now, in conclusion, I would say that VR has excellent potential for international student learning in the content that's usually associated with the kinds of programs that we do for recruitment, pre-departure orientation, on-campus orientation, and the first-year experience. The learning needs lend themselves very well to the strengths of VR educational programming. I think that caution must be exercised, though, to ensure that the content is culturally appropriate and not offensive, and it doesn't impact the students' enjoyment of the learning. Oh boy. 8. Oh my goodness. There's page 8. Oh, I had it here. Oh my god. 1, 6, 7. Where's page 8? Where's page 8? Oh, for heaven's sake. Something is wrong here. No. That's all right. 6, 7. Okay, good enough. Cut. Cut a while ago. Got one more section done. Stop.